The following program is a public access production. Comcast is required to provide time on this channel and make it available pursuant to franchise agreements with the communities we serve. Comcast is not affiliated with the following program or the producers of public access programming and is not responsible for the content. The following program does not reflect the opinions of Comcast or its affiliates.
Sister-in-law and your big brother with you, and then
Hi, welcome to Contempo. I am your host, Roberta Markbright. Thank you so much for being with us and for sharing with us. Please help me welcome our very, very special guest, Rabbi Binyamin Scheiman. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
We're real happy you're here. You have a very, very poignant profession. You are the director of the Hindu Institute that is named after your late wife. And please describe what you do and what you and your wife shared before she passed away.
Well, since I've been in Chicago since 1980, one of the very first, it sounds funny, but I came from New York and somebody called from New York and said, I have a friend whose son got in trouble with the law and is at the Joliet prison. You think you could deliver some matzah and grape juice for him for Passover? And that's the first time I was ever in a prison in my life. And there was something about the experience which excited me. I felt a special calling, if you want to say that. And so I've since then have been constantly expanding till I made it a goal that any Jewish man or woman anywhere in the state of Illinois that's incarcerated, I would like to be there for them. So me and my wife, I obviously would do the traveling to the prison. There's a humorous story where my wife, in the early years, she came with me to the women's prison. She wanted to see what I do. She didn't want to go to one of the men prisons, but she came into the women's prison. And back then, in the early 80s, the women, it was very progressive, they were able to wear their own clothing in the prison.
Oh.
And so it was very funny that when my wife got up to leave, the guard said, wait a second, where are you going? And thank God she was carrying my oldest son then, so they said, okay, you're probably not one of the ladies if you came in pregnant. So. But she didn't go back into prison again, but she many times would allow me, when a man or a woman would be released, to have them over for a Shabbat dinner, for some gefilte fish, for some chicken soup, and she was very gracious and very open and warm to all of them, treating them with human kindness instead of looking at them in a judgmental way. So we did this together as a team.
How wonderful they must have felt probably the first time in their lives that somebody saw them as humans, would you say?
It was, if not the first time in their life, being released from a prison and having the attitudes of the prosecution and then the judge and then the prison guards and then the other prisoners, and then to come out and get that warmth that may have been the first time, especially some of the people I see, they have been totally, their families have cut ties with them. They've had so much heartache with them over the years that they just said, forget about it, don't call us. They couldn't go home to them. And some of the people I see are drifters. They don't really have, their parents may have died, the whole family may have died. They were just alone in the world. So especially for them, it was very, they were very appreciative of the human loving kindness that we showed them.
Well, you know, it must have been very powerful and poignant for them. Now, you're originally from Brooklyn.
Yes.
And no one would know that by your non-accent in Chicago. But what brought you here?
When I finished rabbinic college in Brooklyn, my teacher is the Lubavitcher Rabbi in Brooklyn, and he urged and continues to urge all of his students not to just stay in Brooklyn, but to go around the world, share what you know, reach out to other Jewish people. And at that time, there was a position open in Chicago. And, I had a chance to maybe go to South Africa or stay in Brooklyn. But my wife thought, Chicago, it's not, it's still a big city, and they had an opening for her too. She was the first teacher in the school that Chabad opened up in Chicago, the Cheder Lubavitch. She was the very first teacher. She was the pre-1A teacher, and she remained that her entire life. Oh. She taught in the school for 33 years, and even through her, it was very sad at the end, but she didn't miss work. She wanted to go every day to work, and I was involved to run the camps here in Illinois and to do activities. And again, the prison work became one of the activities because originally there was so much to do. It was an open field, and my boss, Rabbi Daniel Moskowitz, the director of Chabad in Illinois, said, we don't have a big budget, so do things that don't cost us a lot of money. Study with people, learn with people. And for him, he felt visiting people in prison was not a big expense. And and since I loved it so much, again, it continued to grow.
Well, what compelled you? You said this experience that you had when you were called from Brooklyn about a relative who was in jail. Emotionally, what did that do to you?
Well, I think the philosophy that I was taught in the rabbinic school is that God is everywhere in the world, and there's some places that are very dark. And the role is to bring light and God to the darkness and transform it to light. So I think that the prison is such a dark place. The person falls so low spiritual, and the places are very, oppressive. It's a really dark setting. And I think that I feel, and I felt then, that if I'm going to really accomplish what the goal is, to go to darkness and turn to light, what could be darker than this? And then when I realized sometimes I have to drive to the furthest place, they closed it, the Tams Correctional Center. That was a supermax prison. That's almost 370 miles from Chicago. So for me to go to a super maximum security prison, distance so far, and only to see one Jewish person, so it was almost like, who would do that? But in my life, and the way I was looking at things is, that's where I want to go, where nobody else will go. I want to reach the person that the entire community and the entire world may have given up on and bring hope to that person.
And you do, and you did.
Yes.
You have mentioned that very often families of the prisoners have shut them out. And why do they do that?
Well, let me explain. There's two types of families. There's one type of family that remains very supportive. That family is usually a family where someone makes a major blunder in their life, but they've always been a decent family member, and they make this major mistake. So their families stick with them and see them through the entire process. Then there are other people that I see that since they're this high, they've been taking candy from the candy store, their parents have been getting called from the preschool teachers through the first grade through high school, always a problem with their child. Discipline has always been a problem with them. And they've been in, and then as they grow older, if their parents have to bail them out of jail, come down to juvenile detention, come to the police station, constantly bailing them out, at certain point, they guess they take the tough love message. We can't keep enabling this child, and as they get older, and a lot of them are with addictions, gambling addictions, drug addictions, alcohol addictions, and the families just decide that this is the only way. We have to let them fall to the bottom. If we continue to be there, that's only enabling them to continue what they're doing. So those families, they just tell me, Rabbi, I don't want to know. I'll call you if I want to know what's going on with my son, but don't bring him to the house over here. Don't invite him back home to my house. We have to have a distant relationship. And what I've seen transformations where these young men and women or middle-aged men and women, I tell them, you know what? Go home, stay away. I just had a man, he came out 3 months ago, and his family, nothing to do with them. Nothing. First, we put him in a sober house, and then a motel, and finally found a person to room with. I told him, I believe that if you stay in recovery, if you get off your heroin addiction, and you get a job, and you stabilize, and you don't ask your family for anything, I predict they're going to come to you. And they're going to be happy and see that you're recovering. And last week he called me up. He says, Rabbi, you're a prophet. How did you know I was going to have coffee with my father in the coffee shop? How did you know? You were right about it. He came to me. He is now happy that I'm doing okay. And so, that's someone who was abandoned, but I think the families, a father is always a father, a mother is always a mother, and what's sad is the divorce rate is so high. The families break apart, and what I've seen is a very sad thing. I see wives that stick with their husbands through the incarceration, but when they come home, they're such... I guess the wife must have felt such resentment that they have to be the breadwinner, and they had so much of a burden, and they're taking care of their husband, that when the husband comes home, a lot of times the divorce happens after the release. And I always counsel, whether it's a woman with a husband or I said, you have to do nothing but thank your wife or your husband. You have to, when you come home, bring them, say always nice things. Don't ever be sharp to them. You have to realize the position. Be thankful, 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 thankful. A few people have taken my advice, and they have good marriages now. Some others didn't, and they're coming to see me for marriage counseling.
This must be very rewarding for you, because when you see the good things happen, I don't know what that feels like, but it must be a wonderful feeling when you see it come out beautifully, the way you advise them to be.
Yes.
Yes. What is Chabad? Please explain the synagogue that you represent.
Chabad is a Hasidic group, started 7 generations ago in the late 1700s, early 1800s. The first Chabad rabbi, my oldest son is named after him. His name was Schneier Zalman. And his philosophy is, as you probably know, many of your people know that Hasidim are known as people that are happy and dancing. And so a lot of the Hasidic groups are based in emotion, serving God with love, serving God with joy, and bursting out in unbounded joy. And the Rabbi Schneier Zalman started a philosophy which says we need to bind this with intellect. Chabad is an acronym for Chachma, which is wisdom, Bina, which is understanding, and Da'as, which is knowledge. So Chabad is an acronym for the group that I'm part of, is the intellectual part of the Hasidic movement, that the mind rules the heart. And if a person is able to understand God, he's able to overcome his emotions, he's able to control the emotions, and then use them out properly, not just to have unbounded emotional feelings. It has to be harnessed by intellect. So
to channel it.
Yes, channel it in the proper way.
Your children are involved now, especially, 3 of your sons, I believe. What are their roles in what you are doing?
Well, in order to honor my wife, remember my wife, and live with my wife, we used to be called the Jewish Prisoners Assistance Foundation. And our main focus was visiting Jewish prisoners. The rewarding feeling that you mentioned before by seeing the success of people returning home and inevitably counseling families and speaking to them, in honor of my wife, we changed it to her name, HINDA, which is an acronym for helping. The IND stands for individuals, and the A stands for